The energy crisis has not yet overwhelmed us, but it will if we do not act quickly. We simply must balance our demand for energy with our rapidly shrinking resources. By acting now, we can control our future instead of letting the future control us.
4 years of debate is enough. I urge Congress to pass legislation that makes America more secure and less dependent on foreign energy.
From the top of the hill, Jamie can see the whole countryside. The Whitaker's farm, Eisman's, where his best friend lives, and Ardello's. Almost as far away as town.
Then you got to keep in mind, there's landowners that say, well, my field will never be the same. No, but you're never going to get $7,000 a year for what they just did either for the rest, and your grandchildren's and your children's, and you know, you got to take it all into little consideration here. What's going on?
People talk about it as if it's free energy, but in fact this industry is extremely subsidized. And so taxpayers are going to pay for it in terms of paying the taxes that fund these subsidies. And then we're going to pay for it again because our electric bills are going to go higher because it's actually more expensive for the utility to deliver this kind of energy than for the traditional types of energy.
My contention has been, if we as a government mandate to a utility that they must purchase a certain percentage renewable fuel, then that mandated purchase should also state that it would cost no more than what other alternative fuels would be. I'm all for renewable. But if you're looking at telling a public utility they have to buy something that is more expensive than they can purchase something else for, in essence what you're doing then is you're forcing a rate increase. And I don't think that's where we should be going as a public policy.
What is the wind that blows in the tree? What is the wind that blows on the sea? How is it that the wind can blow the rain and the sleet and snow? And what makes the sailboat go? Won't you tell me please if you know? Winds blow high and low, strong or soft they go. Winds that hurry by, blowing clouds up high. Hear wind in the trees, feel wind in your hair. You can't see it, but you know that it's there. When the wind blows, I can sail my little boat.
The average age of the farmer in McLean County is 53 years old. So, quite honestly, if you looked at percentage-wise, a large percentage of this land is owned by folks that are 65 or older, so their retirement age or older. And one of the impacts that, especially people that own farmland and were farmers, the majority of their assets in their portfolio is really farmland and then the machinery that they use to operate it. Very few farmers are really well diversified with a stock portfolio and a bond portfolio and some farmland and some machinery and things of that nature where it's all balanced out. So as a result, the extra income for someone that may only own 80 acres and has retired from farming and has sold their machinery and maybe moved to town or still lives on, particularly on a farm, that 80 acres may only be generating between $8,000 and $10,000 a year. So this type of income, if they're looking at somewhere going down the road to where they have to go into a nursing home or just need stable income for their retirement, an extra $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a year, $7,000 a year is significant when that 1 acre of cropland that's taken out of production was maybe earning $100 to $120 an acre.
As the cattle grow and fatten, Mr. Barrett must consider how best to profit from his investment of work and money.
Companies are going to make decisions according to what will generate money, what will generate profits specifically. And so whether or not the energy industry you're talking about is efficient is not the issue. The issue is whether building wind turbines will generate an income stream. And if building wind turbines generates tax credits that can be sold, then that generates an income stream. So yeah, there's money in it.
As one of the real benefits of the wind turbines is the real estate tax that will be generated from the assessed values on these wind turbines. Now, I would fully suspect that the wind energy companies involved will ask for some period of abatement or reduction in that value because they are providing some jobs and some overall economic benefit to the local community. But long term, we look for those real estate taxes to really help the local school districts like Ridgeview and Tri-Valley and Normal Unit 5 possibly. So we see that there's some local school tax benefits that also will help, especially that Ridgeview School District, which is primarily small towns of less than 800 people, 4 or 5 small towns. So they really don't have a lot of their economic industry other than the farmland assessments that they get their real estate tax base from to provide for their schools. So that's the real benefit to the local community abroad for the people that have to live with looking at the turbines per se and live around them but don't necessarily get the payments from them.
Jamie has to travel all the way into town and back every school day. But he and the other children in the farm community now have the same benefits and education the city child has.
Most companies, most corporations, I'm sure if you're a CEO of Coca-Cola, you drink your product. If you work for Nike, you're going to wear your product. If the wind industry can't put their own people living around and in these projects, then I don't see why they should expect us to be here. We raise Caspian horses, and they're a critically endangered breed, and we do breeding. So we had our 7th baby, and we have another foal due the end of July. So I have concerns about what this is going to mean. These horses, there's fewer than 1,200 in the world. It's really important to us to make sure that we keep our herd viable. Quite honestly, if we lose the lawsuit, I don't think we'll leave our horses here because equines in particular are very sensitive to shadows. There's mornings I can't convince my horses to cross the threshold of the barn because there's a shadow there. They have no depth perception, so anything that's dark like that they perceive as a deep hole that's waiting there to swallow them up. So I don't know how they're going to react. There's a family in Lincoln, Wisconsin, I think, that have a closed dairy herd. They're having such a problem with what they're calling EMF poisoning or something that their cattle are bleeding to death through the nose. They're having cattle aborting. Their well water has changed in some way, shape, or form. I'm not quite clear how that could possibly have happened. And the gentleman is just, I mean, he's scared. He's got young kids.
5 or 6 clients that I manage ground for that have been approached by the companies with a form letter saying this is what we want to do and this is what we'll offer. My reply to them is that we've got to look at the risk reward, which I've stated before, is yes, we're getting this kind of money up front, we're going to get this amount of money per year, but these are some of the potential possibilities of drainage, tile, abandonment of the thing, the program, and do you want to consider those risks as part of an income for you? All of them have decided that they're basically interested in the farm. The farm has been in the family for a number of years. That is their main priority. They want to be able to give their children something that, yes, they may have an added income if they give it to them with a wind turbine, but they also may give them an added headache.
25 years ago, when Jamie's father was a boy on this farm,
things have changed a lot in the last 40 years. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the size of the equipment, the chemical that we use on our crops, the kind of seed corn we plant. I mean, where we've got you know, a lot of us, the Roundup corn stuff, they genetically modified. I mean, they're just, and I think things are going to change quite a bit more along those lines too in the coming years. It's going to be hard to get a start, and it takes an awful lot of capital anymore to get started, and you got to have the land to get started on, and that's just pretty hard to come by for a young fella anymore.
What you'll see is they'll go to one of these sales pitch meetings and they'll get all the farmers together to give them the sales pitch on wind turbines, and they will take and give all the facts and figures and numbers that look very advantageous to the program. One of them I was at, one of the farmers asked, what about tile? The man giving the program didn't know what farm drainage tile was, which gave me a very good clue that they had very little interest in the ag community and more interest in just trying to sell their product. That person will negotiate all the facts and figures, but you basically will not see him again. He will disappear to some other project somewhere else, and you'll have to deal with the construction company. Well, the construction company is on a time and material type basis or project basis, and so they want to get the job done. So in the pipeline, if it's 6 inches of rain the day before and they've got to put a 36-inch pipeline in and it's going across to your farm, it's going to go across to your farm. You can go out there and yell all you want, but they're going to go across it because they've got to get the job done. I assume to be the same in this wind turbine. If weather conditions don't permit right and they've got to go across to your field, no matter if it's wet or dry, they're going to have the turbine delivered or have the towers delivered or have thousands and thousands of pounds of material put across to your field. And compaction is something that takes many, many years to ever come back, if it ever does really come back. And so they go along, and in the pipeline, we still today are picking up crop damages for pipelines that were put in the early 70s because of the reconfiguration of the soil. There, on the road to the southernmost part of the United States, is a turbine wind farm that's completely abandoned. I assume that it was something that was probably put in through the last oil crisis of it was Carter or the 70s that was put in there, abandoned, still running in circles. The bearings are squeaking loudly, and that's one of my fears of having them in our current area.
One of these cranes have a $3 million bond on it.
Yeah.
See? And if that happens to tip over, and it could, they throw the whole crane away, all except the motor.
Wow.
Because it's been compromised.
Wow.
The integrity has been compromised.
One of our concerns that we, as landowners, particularly have, and even today, is the decommissioning of the wind turbines. The wind turbines themselves are a gigantic structure, 275 feet in the air. It is a monstrous piece of metal. And so after a few years of operation, money will be placed into escrow to pay for the decommissioning of those towers, should that occur. Now, our belief is that once you put these $1 million structures up in the air, people are going to want to keep them turning to generate income off of them. The question is, will they become obsolete at some point? If they do, we would suggest that the likelihood would be that the heads of the turbines would be taken off and replaced with something new. So I guess I see it as something that's going to be a permanent part of the landscape for the next 30 years, and we have to accept that fact and be willing to understand that those who are fortunate enough to have the turbines on their land are going to be financially compensated for that inconvenience to a certain extent. So.
And then another fellow stood up and actually called us atheists. You have to be an atheist to be opposed to this wind. But I really think a lot of people were sold this idea that it's morally correct to have these wind generators. It's good for the environment. It's like, and this myth about fighting foreign oil. It's everywhere in all their jargon, and yet there's absolutely no link to foreign oil from electricity generation in this country, especially in Illinois.
We're not against wind energy. I'm certain that it's going to play some kind of role in establishing renewable energy in this country. All we really want is somebody to take a look at what these companies are doing, and let's be responsible about where we're placing these.
In some parts of the country, vast windmill farms spread out along miles of fields or desert. The power from these wind turbines is transmitted to cities at a high cost in energy and dollars. In Chicago, some designers developed a way to generate wind power closer to the customers by putting turbines right on top of skyscrapers. Mayor Richard Daley seems to like the idea. He pledged to make Chicago the greenest city in the country by 2010. From Chicago Public Radio, Robbie Harris reports this move just might give new meaning to the Windy City's nickname.
Even though the story goes that Chicago got its famous nickname from the hot air of its politicians, there's still plenty of actual wind here, certainly enough for Bill Becker. Becker teaches industrial design at the University of Illinois and has been tinkering with windmills for years. He thinks the time is right for Chicago to take advantage of its natural gift.
Part of the reason I think the term Windy City stuck, sure it was for the politicians, but I think almost everybody I know has been knocked down by the winds in Chicago.
But the idea of capturing wind to generate power inside the nation's third largest city is daunting. No one wants to see another tower go up. They're noisy, and they pose a danger to birds. And the common propeller-type windmills have been known to toss a blade on occasion. Not a big problem on a rural wind farm, but potentially catastrophic above crowded city streets. Still, industrial designer Bill Becker thinks there is a way to do it safely and economically.
Making it out of this clear plastic.
In the workshop at UIC, Becker and some of his students are building their third prototype of something they call an aeroturbine. 10 feet long and about 3 feet wide, it looks much like one of those spinning decorations you see hanging on someone's front porch. It's based on a 19th century design by Finnish inventor S.J. Savonius, known as the S-rotor. Instead of freestanding windmills, Becker wants to put turbines like these on the roofs of existing tall buildings and encase them in frames of solar panels.
So you get sun and wind on the same footprint on the rooftop.
As I see it right now, rural communities are facing a choice. They're really at a crossroads. We have beautiful open areas and, it's mostly agricultural. But there's increasing encroachment of industry, and we're going to have to decide what we want in our community, what we want our community to look like. Basically, I see two paths. One is to remain essentially the way we are and controlled growth and try to avoid urban and suburban sprawl and industrialization. And the second is we become the utility closet for the cities and allow the cities to send everything they don't want to live with down to us. So, for example, we would handle all their prisoners, all their garbage, all their utilities, you know, all that stuff they don't want to live with but they want to use. We would essentially become their utility closet.
What is the wind that blows in the tree? What is the wind that blows on the sea? How is it that the wind can blow the rain and the sleet and snow? And what makes the sailboat go? Won't you tell me please if you know? Winds blow high and low, strong or soft they go. Winds that hurry by, blowing clouds up high.
I went to the Benson project, and that's a very small community. There's only 400 people living in that town. And those people were the residents that have the little farmsteads with 2 acres or 1.5 acres that showed up there. I mean, they were totally blindsided. You know, it comes out 15 days prior to the hearing. And
There have been some obstacles with everything from selling the energy to getting county zoning issues taken care of, getting landowners being willing to sign on. But Horizon Wind Energy, which is the main company east of town, has been very progressive in communicating, having landowner meetings where they have been upfront, open and honest, as best I think you can be in a business relationship with the landowners that they will be partnering with in this project to a certain extent, because they are using the...
I know there's a lot of rural residences between Saybrook and Ellsworth and Arrowsmith up for sale right now. Some of them sold right at the same time. We looked at them at the same time we looked at this home when we purchased, and they're up for sale again. I know why they're selling. They don't want to be in the middle of it either.
And that's a part what I'm looking to do, is to help set the standards so that we have a process that is equitable around the state for the assessment, such that you may have a certain part of the state with a certain county negotiating with a certain company, and until there's a standard, they may negotiate one type of assessment process. Another company, another county, another time may develop a different assessment. And I think what we need to do is similar to how we assess farmland, similar how we assess real property, not the fact of what the formula is, but the fact that there is a standardization.
Wind can make things spin around, making pretty windy sounds. Paper toys will spin and fly, dancing low and dancing high. Winds blow high and low, strong or soft they go. Winds that hurry by, blowing clouds up high. Hear wind in the trees, feel wind in your hair. You can't see it, but you know that it's there. What is the wind that blows in the tree? What is the wind that blows on the sea? How is it that the wind can blow the rain and the sleet and snow?